Hello ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? Welcome back to the Force Feed, the show where I keep you up to date on all the most recent gaming news and announcements. It is Thursday, January 12th, and today we will be discussing STAL.K.E.R 2 still in development, Armored Core 5 gets a release date, a new update for Star Wars The Old Republic, The Witcher 2 stops chasing pirates, arr, and finally, some more developers join in taking a stance against SOPA. Let's jump into the news. Last month, fans of STAL.K.E.R got a fair as there were rumors floating around that the sequel would never be coming out. It was reported that the STAL.K.E.R developers, GSC Game World, were actually closing and that as a result, the sequel would stop production. However, we just did get a new message posted on their official Facebook page stating that the sequel is still in the works. So yes, the STAL.K.E.R 2 is still being worked on. It will eventually be coming out. They are just trying to find people to assist them with funding the project, but it is, again, still in the works. Armored Core 5 has now officially received a release date. Namco Bandai came out and stated that the game will be launching on March 20th in North America and the 23rd of March in Europe. Now this is going to be for the Xbox 360 as well as the PlayStation 3, so prepare for some sweet mech warrior action. The first major update for Star Wars The Old Republic will be taking place next week on January 17th. Now with this update, we are going to see a host of new things, including a new flashpoint and operation, which are going to be the PvE scenarios in the game. In addition to that, there are going to be various changes made throughout the game, including a level 50 bracketing system for PvP war zones, the addition of anti-aliasing, and some changes to the open world PvP on the planet Alum. So if you are playing Star Wars The Old Republic, you do have some new updates coming up in the very near future to look forward to. The thing that I'm most excited for are the changes to PvP that are coming up, as at the moment there are some major issues with it. One of the biggest things that The Old Republic really needs to work on, though, is the game's responsiveness. This has been honed in and is notified as a major issue by the developer, and it is something they're working on, but they cannot work on that fast enough. During the tail end of last year, we saw developer CD Projekt Red begin pursuing pirators of their game, The Witcher 2. They basically decided to take legal action and have a company on their behalf send out legal notices to people that they believed were pirating the game. A major backlash came from the community in stating that they were people who legally purchased the game and didn't actually pirate it, that were running into issues and actually receiving notifications that they had to pay compensation for, quote, pirating the game. Now, as a result of this backlash from the community, they have actually come out and stated that they are going to halt their current pursuing of pirators of the game, and even though they believe they have actually only ever sent out letters to people who have really pirated the game, they don't want to risk anyone getting a letter who actually purchased it legally, and they just don't want to really mess that up for their community. Now this is pretty interesting that CD Projekt Red actually decided to do this instead of taking the course of, say, DRM, which many developers are using to try to stop pirating. Instead they thought, you know what, we'll just take legal action because DRM is basically too much of an issue. They felt like it really wasn't something they wanted to do, and it really hindered the gameplay experience more than they liked it. Although they have come out and stated that they are certainly against pirating, they said the best thing that can really happen is us, as individuals, actually confront pirates that we happen to know. If you know someone who is actually pirating any games, you should tell them, you know what, this is probably not a good idea. Developers are losing money as a result of these actions, and they're having to take various methods, whether it be what CD Projekt Red had decided to do and send out letters saying, you've pirated our game, please pay us, or DRM. Either way, it's really not the best thing. We'd rather avoid this, and the only way that's going to happen is if people stop pirating games. So of course that should be something to think about before the next time you decide to download a game illegally. More game developers have come out and joined in the fight against SOPA. Yesterday, Riot Games and today, Runic Games, both stating that they oppose the bill in its current form. Now, we've talked about this many times in the past, and we are undoubtedly going to talk about it more in the future. Pirating and stealing is a bad thing. Websites that promote it is a bad thing. But the current form of SOPA is just absolutely unacceptable. It is going to do more harm than it would good, and it's something that we cannot let pass if it is within our power. So certainly voice your opinion, take a stance against SOPA. This is going to help us as a community, no doubt about it, and this is definitely something that we do have to pay attention to because it is us as individuals that are actually going to be the ones who make a difference. If we sit back and say nothing, then SOPA will just go through unhindered. Normally this would be the end of the show, however I have decided to add a new segment to the Force Feed in which I answer community questions. If you would like your question answered at the end of the Force Feed, simply send it into the Force Feed at forcestrategygaming.com. Today's question I will be pulling from Facebook, but in the future all questions will be answered from the email. Today's question is, there seems to be a huge rise in the number of MMOs we are seeing today. Do you think this is helping the genre, or is it actually creating a decline in the number of people who are usually attracted to it? I would have to say it is not creating a decline in the people usually attracted to it. I think people who play MMOs would play MMOs regardless of how many are being produced. The biggest thing that more and more people entering the market, more developers deciding to create MMOs does, is it creates more competition. And competition is always going to be a good thing because it's going to force other developers to basically raise their production value and make better quality games. Better bang for your buck is what the consumer, us gamers, will be looking for. And since there are so many MMOs, you're really going to have to prove yourself as a game to appeal to a large consumer base. And you look at the current king, World of Warcraft, and even though the game is on a decline, the subscriber base is falling, it's still the best. It's the best for a reason. It's because it appeals to the greatest amount of people, essentially. And not only that, but it's also got a very high production value. Yes, the game is getting old, graphically it's aging, there are certainly problems with the game, but at the moment, it's still considered the best. And, it is going to be a while until someone dethrones it. We've got upcoming games like Guild Wars 2, and then, of course, we also know that Blizzard is going to be working on another MMO. But more MMOs in the market can only be seen as a good thing because of the fact that it creates more competition and once more forces people to look at what they're doing and try to push out a better product. And that is going to do it for today's episode of the Force Feed. Once more, if you would like your question answered, you can send that into the Force Feed at forcestrategygaming.com. As always, I thank you guys so much for watching. If you like the content, please subscribe. Thanks again, guys. Once again, this has been Force, and you have just been force-fed.